A man with zero farming experience bought a farm, lost almost everything in year one, and somehow turned it into a £2 million a year empire that 250,000 people travel to see. Everyone thought he'd fail. He wanted them to think that, because the failure wasn't the mistake, it was the entire business model. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand why not a single farmer in Britain saw this coming, and why every farmer since has wished they'd thought of it first. Jeremy Clarkson, a toy salesman's son from Doncaster, bought 1,000 acres in 2008 for roughly £6 million. He didn't buy a business plan. He bought mud, bad weather, and a to-do list longer than most people's careers. Here's what almost nobody clocked at the time. Diddly Squat was never really a farm. It was a film set. Amazon was quietly paying the rent. And the local council, the ones who thought they held all the leverage, were, without realizing it, writing the plot. He called farming agricultural misery on wheels. He'd never lost a single harvest to bad weather in his life. And yet today, British farmers call him one of their own. No politician managed that in 30 years. Clarkson did it by accident, by making the entire country feel the weight farmers had been carrying silently. For decades, British farming had an invisibility problem, not because people didn't care, but because they'd simply never seen it. Bread, milk, potatoes. Nobody saw what came before the shelf. Then Clarkson put the whole brutal chain on primetime television. Ruined crops, uncooperative soil, a grown man staring at a wrecked field, doing math he didn't want to do. Farmers had lived this for generations. Nobody outside their world had ever felt it, until now. Ask any British farmer what actually keeps them up at night, and weather isn't even top of the list. It's the forms, the regulations, rules written by people who've never set a boot in a field. British agriculture is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the country, and farmers have been quietly drowning in it for years, with almost nobody watching. Then Clarkson started shouting about it. On the biggest stage in British TV. Sitting across from planning committees and government officials, calling the rules exactly what they were. Absurd, disconnected, maddening. For the first time, farmers watching at home didn't feel like they were screaming into a void. Here's where it gets interesting. British produce has been quietly losing the war against cheaper imports for years. Clarkson didn't just open a farm shop, he made buying British feel like a statement. People queued for hours, in the rain, for honey and potatoes. And that queue became a symbol that rippled out to farm shops and markets nationwide that had nothing to do with him. Most British farms don't turn a profit. Many run at a loss, year after year, and families keep going anyway, because the land has been theirs for generations. What farmers almost never get is a wealthy public figure standing next to them in that loss. Clarkson did something almost nobody in his position does. He showed the losses, openly, almost uncomfortably so. And then he came back the next season anyway. That single decision told every farmer watching, you don't do this because the numbers work. You do this because it's in your blood. British farming never had a shortage of opinions. It had a loud enough voice problem. The National Farmers Union does real work behind closed doors, but the public only notices farming when something breaks, a shortage, a price spike, a scandal. Clarkson changed the volume. When he raises an eyebrow at policy, it's a headline. When he turns up at a protest, cameras follow. Almost by accident, a man famous for driving fast cars became the most effective spokesperson British agriculture has had in a generation. Quietly, for decades, small family farms have been getting swallowed by scale, outpriced, out-resourced, unable to keep up. Diddly Squat is small. In the real world, it would be exactly the kind of farm nobody outside its village ever hears about. Instead, millions watched its planning rejections and its impossible math play out on screen. And for thousands of small farming families, it felt like watching their own story, finally told loud enough for the country to hear. There's something that needs to be said plainly. Farming has one of the highest suicide and mental health crisis rates of any profession in Britain. Isolation, financial pressure, the quiet expectation to just get on with it. Clarkson's farm didn't sanitize that. It showed the exhaustion, the moments with no fix. And by showing it without wrapping it in a neat bow, it gave farmers permission for a conversation the industry badly needed, and gave everyone else a reason to finally understand what that weight feels like. Farmers have always been proud of their machinery, tractors, combines, the specialist kit that makes the impossible possible. For years, that pride stayed inside the community. Then Clarkson climbed into a Lamborghini tractor, yes, that's real, and brought the same energy he'd spent decades giving to supercars. Suddenly, the rest of the country was catching up to something farmers had known all along. Here's a number every British farmer knows by heart. What they're paid is often a small fraction of what you pay on the shelf. Rising fuel and fertilizer costs on one side, supermarket buying power on the other, squeezing from both ends. Clarkson made that gap feel unfair, because it is. And when millions of people start asking where their food actually comes from, that's the shift the industry had been hoping for years. British farming has an age crisis. The average farmer is over 50, and young people aren't lining up to replace them. Then something unexpected happened. Teenagers started watching. Kaleb Cooper, the young farm manager, became a breakout star. Funny, sharp, genuinely in love with the work. Clarkson didn't just entertain a new generation. He planted a seed in the exact demographic agriculture desperately needs. There's a specific exhaustion that comes from fighting for years while nobody's listening. British farmers know it intimately. Clarkson didn't fix it with sentiment. He fixed it, in part, by simply refusing to quit. Season after season, on a farm that made no rational financial sense. That stubbornness is the exact quality farming demands. He didn't just talk about it, he modeled it. And now, the part almost nobody fully connects. The farm was never the business. The farm was the film set. Amazon was paying the rent. The council that thought they held the leverage were, the whole time, writing the story for him. Look at the full picture. £6 million spent on the purchase in 2008. £144 profit in year one, the worst on record. An estimated £2 million a year in farm shop revenue now. 250,000 visitors annually. A 16-mile sourcing radius that forced him into supplier relationships nobody else would have found. A brewery now valued around £75 million. A pub bought and renovated for roughly £1 million. Amazon reportedly paying £10 to £12 million a year for the show itself. That's not a farm. That's a flywheel. The failure wasn't a bug, it was the product. You can't manufacture that kind of story. You can only find it and point a camera at it. None of this is guaranteed forever. Markets shift, audiences move on, and no next season is promised. That uncertainty is real, and it matters, because it's the same uncertainty every farmer in Britain lives with, every single year. Clarkson never set out to save British farming. He arrived an outsider, made every mistake in the book, lost money, argued with officials, baffled his neighbors, and somewhere in that mess, something shifted. British farmers didn't need a celebrity to validate them. They got something rarer. A witness. Someone who saw the weight of what they carry and told the truth about it to anyone who'd listen. Millions did. So here's my question for you, and I actually want an answer, not just a like. Do you think Clarkson saved British farming, or did British farming save Clarkson? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm reading every single one on this. And if you've ever queued at Diddly Squat, tell me, was the honey actually worth the wait?